Brian just threw away the rule book, just took you out of where you were and took you to another place.
There was no greater world created in rock and roll than the Beach Boys. The level of musicianship, I don't think anybody's touched it yet.
To dream up these textures that never existed before. That's why people say Brian's a genius.
You know, the rooftop is down. The story begins.
I'm picking up. The beauty of it carries with it a sense of joyfulness, even in the pain of living.
You know there's something going on with Brian Wilson. There's no hiding that this man is troubled, trying to escape something.
And the pressure that comes with that, you know, the pressure to continue to be the person that people think you are supposed to be.
The idea of doing an interview makes Brian nervous. And this is kind of where things got difficult for you, huh?
Yeah.
What was going on?
I don't know. I was having mental problems.
Yeah. So we'll often ask if we can just take a drive and listen to some music.
Well, I get anxious like it's scared a lot.
So this was all where the house was, right here?
Yeah.
We can get out.
Get out. I just want to look at it. It should get better, really.
There it is. Look.
There it is. It marks the spot. They said go out and get a steady job.
The fact that he's still here and making music, it's a miracle, kind of, isn't it?
I don't know how you do that.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, work it over. Again. I got this terrible feeling in my chest, you know? I'm nervous.
You got this. That must have been a really exciting time.
It was. It was a trip.
It looks like you're record.
Hello, guys, gentlemen.
Hey, Adam.
How are you?
Good. How do I know you from Instagram, though? Are you upstate?
Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm in the Hudson Valley. I'm just right by Bard College, Tivoli, New York.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just across the river from you.
Oh, are you
I'm
in
Bearsville.
Where?
In Bearsville.
Oh, yeah, very close. My luthier, can I say that? My luthier is in Bearsville.
Yeah, I know that luthier.
You do. He's terrific. I got here and I had him work on that, and it's been keeping me good company since I moved up here. I was on by the way, guys, I was on that Tribeca during the Tribeca Film Festival. I was on that Zoom that you did with Brian. Do you remember that? And you invite and various people on, and I actually got chosen to ask a question. I was kind of geeked about it because I was like, well, I got to get on that. I got to.
Absolutely.
Such a treat to talk to. Let me set it up so we get the housekeeping out of the way, if that's okay with you guys. And it's nice to meet you both.
For sure.
The name of the documentary is Brian Wilson, Long Promised Road. We already mentioned it premiered at Tribeca, where I saw it, and it's going to have its theatrical and on-demand premiere on the 19th of November. Correct?
That's correct. And there's a sneak peek on November 17th as well.
Where? Well, how's that? How do you sneak a peek?
So you get and it's in about 125 theaters around the country. So as they say in the old days, check your local listings, see if you're in one of those cities. But yeah, November 17th. It's called a fans only screening.
Oh, terrific. Okay. Now, how can you I guess interpret that? Like, so what makes a fan? Somebody who buys a ticket to that particular screening?
Exactly.
Or do you have to show some other kinds of proof of?
I think it's just a cool marketing term.
Sorry, Jason?
You need a sunflower tattoo.
Yes.
There you are.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, if you come in with a sunflower tattoo, or
you're in. Okay.
Yeah.
And a stub, or I don't know if they have stubs anymore. Well, okay, so Now, Jason, you're also well, Brent, you're the director. Jason, you are, if I can call it, sort of the guide. Well, you're a producer on the film as well, but you're also Brian's close friend, or you've developed this very close bond clearly over the years. You are, but you're, in a sense, how would you describe your role? Driver?
Yeah, driver, DJ.
DJ, that's right.
Cobb salad provider.
Ice cream sundae provider.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, all those things. You know, I mean, I've written about Brian over the years for Rolling Stone, and you know, the style of interviewing that I prefer to do with anyone, and certainly works better with Brian than sitting down and asking, you know, 10 questions, is spending time and getting to know someone and seeing sort of the rhythms of their life and their interests. And that is particularly helpful with Brian, who's not best in a straight, you know, sort of Q&A kind of environment. I learned over the years that, you know, Brian's really reflective and really insightful and really thoughtful and really funny. But, you know, he is best when he's ready to do that. So rather than sort of making it happen, you know, sort of letting it happen. And that's kind of been the way that I've approached Brian and many other subjects over the years. So that was kind of the basic approach here. You know, driving around in a car in LA with Brian Wilson is a great thing to do. And, you know, LA in a car with Brian, you know, he grew up 15 miles away from where he lives now. So his whole life is unfolded on these streets. So it jogs memories,
right? Which you revisit throughout the film, right?
And that's a beautiful experience.
It's a bit of a travelogue then throughout that area that you just mentioned in SoCal. So now, Brent, you have a background producing and directing music-related projects and documentaries, correct? Is that fair to say?
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I go back to the 90s. Yeah, I started producing and directing music videos for, showing my age here, NSYNC, Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys. So yeah, I go back a little bit.
I never heard of any of those people, but they sound very talented.
They're going to break out someday. There's a lot of potential there.
Well, if you say so. So how did you two guys manage to come up, and what was went into that sort of decision to go ahead and make this film?
Well,
I don't know. Brent, you start.
Sure. I had done a film called Streetlight Harmonies.
Yeah.
Which is
about doo-wop music. Doo-wop music. Yeah.
Yes. And Brian appears in that film, and Al, and because we talk about how the Beach Boys were so heavily influenced, and they were a link in that chain of doo-wop music, particularly if you hear Surfing, you know, that first, you know, Beach Boy hit, you know, you literally hear, you know, ba ba dip da dip. I mean, you hear the doo-wop in there. And so for me, that was a natural ask to have Brian be a part of that film. And he was terrific in it. And so we developed a relationship with Brian's management, and we started talking about, my producers and I, Teresa Page, Tim Headington, and we started talking about what would be the next project. And I am a Brian Wilson Beach Boy fan. I saw my first concert at 9, and these documentaries are really tough. They're really hard to do. So you've got to pick and choose your subjects carefully, I think.
Right.
You know, you're going to be doing these things for a long time and listen to this music for a long time. So you better be somebody you like. And I was a fan. So I thought there was still something in Brian's story that hadn't been told, which at the time was really more about Brian's third act of his life, you know, where he is now and where he's been literally for the last 20, 25 years, which is almost kind of where Love and Mercy left off.
Right.
Recall in that movie, it ends, he reconnects with Melinda, and that's where the movie ends.
Yeah.
But since then, you know, as Jason's written about really well, is that, you know, he's produced, you know, some incredible solo albums. He's had this remarkable touring career. He's adopted 5 incredible, beautiful children. He's got this remarkable life. And I thought that could be a phenomenal film. And so we approached his management about that. I tried to interview Brian myself. It failed miserably. I threw up the white flag, and thank God Jason answered.
Yeah, well, it's this one also, I'm glad you kind of answered my next question, which was, what were you hoping to achieve? Because there has been a fair amount of stories being told about him, whether nonfiction, fiction, film, books, etc. And I know he's participated in probably some of that, but here we have it's interesting because we're looking, he's in the car so much of the time or throughout, but we really see him maybe the most, I don't know if exposed is the right word, vulnerable. I wonder about what his take, maybe Jason, because you have such a close friendship with him, what his own feeling about his being exposed like that to the public, and them seeing his how he deals with his own mental illness, because clearly this is a big part of his life.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you exactly how Brian feels about that. I can tell you that he's courageous and brave enough to do it. I can tell you that, he is an advocate for people who struggle with mental health issues. And he certainly sees that both his music, but also just, the courage that he faces his daily life with is inspiring to other people. I think that
for sure.
One of the things that he and I talk about a lot is, he doubts himself a lot, even after all he's achieved.
Yeah.
He goes out on stage every night and gets standing ovations, and he sort of wonders, are they really, do they really believe in this music? And I think over the past few years in particular, he's really taken a moment to recognize, that, wow, I do give people this strength, and this music does give them this solace. I would think that's kind of what he hopes for, to give people some peace that he didn't feel for a lot of his life. So I think definitely he's believes in that and tries to do that. And so I think he's, and I think he's also at a place in his life where he doesn't really have anything to prove. He can just be himself.
Well, that's a good place to be. And it's probably a romantic notion, this thing about people say, he's brilliant. He's a genius. It's a term it's probably overused, right? But he really is a case of somebody who is a genius. And then there's this mental illness part of him, and it doesn't define him. I'm not trying to suggest it defines him entirely, certainly doesn't. But a lot of people would try to put these things together in a romantic way, saying, opposite sides of this coin, or the sword, the double-edged sword, that's kind of, do you feel like he could have been, I guess that the question is, do you think that's nonsense? Because, he could have, just as easily have been much more sort of healthy minded and still been a brilliant songwriter.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I just feel like he's a highly sensitive person. He's someone who tunes into a different frequency than almost anyone else that I've known. He's perceptive of things in a sort of way that is, I haven't known many people who observe things the way he does or feel them the way he does. So, maybe that, I don't know how all those things add up. I just know that's kind of who he is. And I think certainly that adds some kind of depth to his music and his ability to communicate through music.
I guess I feel like having asked that question, I regret it a little bit, because there's no way you can really answer that. It's just something that I'm aware of, like that people often will put this romantic, sort of lid on this, idea of the damaged genius, you know the story about Good Vibrations and how sort of he came up with those words where, he was asking his mom, why does dogs on the street bark at someone and not someone else? And his mom had said something to him, well, they pick up on vibrations. And Brian is someone who picks up on vibrations, right? He is so aware of what's going on around him in this other frequency. And, I think that's one of his gifts.
It's funny. I think it's when I thought about it, when I was watching those guys together, Jason, it was like, I thought to myself, it's like, it's like, how you, the film, Brilliant Mind, or even Queen's Gambit. It's like, how some people could see numbers in 3D. It's like, I wonder, it's like, does Brian, see emotions in 3D, or, it's because you're right. There's some element to him that just makes him more sensitive.
One of the, I mean, this has been talked about by guys in his band, and also when John Cusack was making Love and Mercy, talked about this too. And I've always recognized this about Brian, and it was nice to be able to talk to others about it. When he's talking to you, he's often not looking in your eyes. He's looking kind of up here somewhere above you, just a tiny bit,
Right.
And
yeah.
it's almost like he's looking for this sort of aura or something. And that's, that's how he operates. I mean, it's really beautiful.
Brent, all you have to do is say, I'm making a documentary about Brian Wilson, and then it's easy that they just line up Al Jardine, Don Was, Bruce Springsteen, Elton John, Nick Jonas, Jim James. Is it Yim Yims? How do you pronounce it?
Jim James.
Jacob Dylan.
Like
Linda Perry, all these people, right? Did you have to actually turn people away?
It wasn't too hard. It really wasn't. But what we did is we wanted to be really selective about who we went after, right? I wanted to try to avoid some redundancy. So we were very targeted in who we went after. We went after Bruce because I felt like Bruce was an American icon. I'm a pretty big Springsteen fan, and I've heard him mention Bruce mention Brian every once in a while, but not a lot. So just enough. Elton, growing up, thousands of miles away in the UK, it's like, how is that? And, how does that person become a Brian Wilson fan? How does Gustavo Dudamel, growing up in Venezuela, in Caracas, he's a huge Brian Wilson fan. How does that guy become so we were very specific about who we went after. Jim James, kind of the king of cool, right? He's independent. He's a rocker. Nick Jonas. I thought Nick Jonas we went after Nick Jonas because I thought Nick would have a really interesting parallel story. Nick was, in a band as a teenager with his two brothers.
Right.
And he created this pop sound that was very successful, that as he got into his 20s, people wanted him to kind of keep, replicating, but he was trying to find his own adult sound. I don't know, it sounded like Brian Wilson to me. So I kind of thought that was going to be a pretty interesting path. And Don had worked with him. And so I thought that was going to be an issue. But the idea was being, if you flipped around on the channels and you saw all of these people together, you'd go, what in the world do they have in common? And the answer could only be Brian Wilson. And so, we were very specific about who we went after. And it wasn't, getting schedules always tough. You got to work around these guys' schedules.
Oh, sure. Right.
They're usually pretty busy people.
Yeah.
So that's kind of hard, but nobody, everybody was really gracious with their time. And I think, and I'm proud of the fact that they're so insightful and so well-spoken about Brian and his music and his process.
Right. Well, I mean, clearly, McCartney, I guess, has been talked exhaustively about, the Beach Boys' influence on the Beatles and how they made Sgt. Pepper, and it does come up, right? It's been a couple of months since I've seen, but in the film, but I like the fact that you kind of went. I like when, you see folks that you don't necessarily expect. I expected Paul McCartney to be there, but I kind of appreciated seeing other folks there too, like that had a different take on how Brian.
Thank you very much, because that was very conscious, right? I mean, everybody's heard, Paul, talk about those things, and we did. We wanted a different opinion. We wanted different insights that maybe we hadn't heard before, and that was our goal. And I was happy to see that everyone we reached out to said yes.
Again, it's called Brian Wilson, Long Promised Road, and it opens on the 19th. There's fans, what do you call it? An advanced
screening. Yep.
Screening
fans only screening on the 17th.
Fans only screening on the 17th. We'll put links up so people can find out where that would take place. I guess kind of maybe the last question I have, getting back to the man himself, Brian Wilson, what did he think of the film? Did he see it? Did he watch it? I think I remember him on that Zoom call, so talking pretty much a little bit about it. But Jason, what did he
says he liked it a lot. I think for him, the stuff he's talked to me and I think to Brent also about is really listening to that music that we listen to. Right. It's not the greatest hits. It's music that's really that he's really partial to, music that brings him back to certain moments. That song, It's Okay, the song Long Promised Road, some of that stuff that I think really brings back a kind of warmth and memories of his brothers to him.
Right, yeah.
That is really, I think, really important to him. He definitely, thinks of it as the time when he sort of rediscovered Dennis's music and Pacific Ocean Blue, which is meaningful to him. And then, I think he loves to get in the car, drive around, tell stories, go to lunch. And so I think he's got a really good vibe about it. He's happy.
I was going to yank out my copy. It's sitting right around here of Dennis's Pacific Ocean Blue. It's right around here somewhere. Thought I had it right by my
the only bummer about that moment was we listened on my laptop.
Oh yeah, that's true. Is it true he hadn't heard it before?
Well, that's what he says. That's what he says. So we're going to see that.
Right.
Certainly he, no matter what, rediscovered it that day.
That's right. He listened to it through New Year's regardless and responded so beautifully to it. And Jason, what you said about him tuning into a particular frequency really sums it up. I really feel like that when you're sitting in the car and he needs particular songs to calibrate his mood.
Yeah.
That kind of is an extension of that.
Well, that song, It's Okay in particular, I won't geek out on you too much, but that song is an incredible song. If you listen to it, it's kind of a mantra. It's okay. It's all right. And it's also, it's a song of ambition. You got to go to it. You got to go get it. Yeah. And so that's kind of like the ambition that he had and that his dad gave him, which was the positive side. And then the It's Okay, the sort of soothing thing. And I think those two things come together beautifully in the song. The other amazing thing about that song is that the parts that Brian writes in that song, Mike, his cousin, sings, and the parts that Mike wrote, Brian sings.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things happening in that song. And I don't think it's any sort of, coincidence that he wanted to hear that song that day. I think that song gives him a lot of strength, and it's one that people don't really know that well.
I'm just going to urge people to see it if you're a fan of whether it's the Beach Boys. I guess if you're a fan, you're going to go see this film anyway. But I think people who are maybe less familiar really should give it a shot, and see the film. I want to thank you both very much. Jason, maybe run with coffee in Woodstock.
Sounds good, man. Let's do it.
Brent, you're always welcome. Where are you, Brent? You're in.
I'm in LA. Yep, I'm in LA.
LA.
We're in Brian's house today. This is Brian's. Those are not my Grammys in the back. Those are Brian's.
Wow.
That's Brian's Lifetime Achievement Awards, and those are not mine for sure.
Well, please pass along my regards, and I thank you both for making the time.
Adam.
All right. Good luck with everything.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.